But the point is that what it also does is it begins to decrease. Income inequality. But let's listen to Neil Cavuto talking about this, and then let's talk about
embolism. I'm assuming.
I just think, let's listen to Neil Cavuto talk about the estate tax here, because I wonder if this isn't a little bit, not what Neil Cavuto is doing, but, I think it's quite a coincidence that Clinton drops this literally 2 days before the debate. Let's listen to Cavuto.
This gives new meaning to the term tax to death. Word Hillary Clinton is proposing an even steeper hike in the estate tax than she has already. Forget 45%. She wants to take it all the way up to 65%. True, that 65% rate will ensnare only those worth more than $500 million. I'm sure startling news to her billionaire backers nonetheless. But she's already reduced the amount of what she calls rich estates. It's $5.45 million now. She wants to take that so-called threshold down to $3.5 million. Now, I know what you're thinking. Relax, this is just rich folks. Wrong. This is just the start. If history is any guide, what constitutes wealthy keeps going down, and the tax on that wealth, that keeps going up. Right now, the estate tax is 40% on estates worth more than $5.45 million. Then, inspired by Bernie Sanders, Ms. Clinton proposed hiking it to 45%, again on estates worth $3.5 million, then 50% on estates worth more than $10 million, and 55% to those worth more than $50 million. So you see where this is going. Now, again, I know what you're thinking. Even that lowest threshold of $3.5 million seems like a lot of money. But remember, this thing is not indexed to inflation. It won't seem like so much money many years from now. So a lot can change, including what is considered a lot. Remember when a $100,000 house seemed like a lot? Or a couple in that house making $100,000 seemed like a lot? Or $1 a gallon gas seemed like a lot? It didn't take a lot of years for a lot to change, except government's insatiable appetite for more.
So here's my point.
He's hilarious on so many levels.
Well, but here's my point.
Someday the Jetsons will fly. In their cars, they will fly. At that time, $3.5 million will not seem like a lot.
But Neil Cavuto's cold aside, and maybe that was impacting his ability
to throw up. Was that the cold, or was that him getting?
But here's why I think we may. This is why she has dropped this week. I think she's hoping this comes up in the debate, or we'll bring it up in the debate. And you could tell by that clip with Cavuto, there is no way to sell this to the American public where they don't go, "What the fuck are you talking about?" Like he's sitting there going like,
Kudlow's
you got Neil Cavuto,
Aaron Burnett's to all lose their minds, and that puts her in the perfect place.
You cannot talk about this without seeming. Now, granted, it's Neil Cavuto on Fox Business News. There's only a half a dozen people there, and they all probably are, like $3.5 million. That isn't a lot. But for
I'm sure there
99%.
I don't want to take too long, but just this is one of the funnier stories, right? So give just 30 seconds if you'll indulge me.
Go.
I think it was 2004. I could be off, but I think it was. I went on Fox one time because I used to do that kind of silliness, and I went on Cavuto's show. And I'll never forget this, sitting there, and I was making an argument. I think at the time Kerry was saying he was going to raise taxes on people making over $150,000 a year. It was something like that. And Cavuto sat there arguing. It just lets you know how far removed from reality they are. Cavuto sat there and, just looked me in the eye, and he was sort of like, $150,000, that's not very much money. And that's where they're coming from. And Cavuto has no idea that to most people, making $150,000 in a year is like an incredibly good year.
I think the strategy here is, I don't know, but I just find it very curious that this proposal comes out now. And it is aimed specifically at Donald Trump and probably literally maybe another 24 families tops in the country. That if this comes up, how does Donald Trump respond to this? Like, $3.5 million, that's not very much. Or, $500 million doesn't go as far as you think it does. Like, you have no idea how much I have to spend on just gassing up my plane.
You know how much I'm going to need to steal from a leukemia charity to cover the cost of that?
Listen, most people don't have their own private charitable foundation that can pay some of these piddling bills. So, It's not fair
And
to the
know
rest
in
of the
end,
country.
like, Buffett's going to support it, and so in a number of the. So it's not even.
But my
like
point is,
just the
if this
15
comes up in
people
the
it
debate,
affects.
if
Half
this
of those
comes up in
15
the
people-
debate, there is
Yeah.
no way to argue against this without, like Neil Cavuto just showed us. You got to throw on, like, it used to be $3.5 million. Now it's all the way. So talk about $5 million,
Before you know
and
it,
then
it'll
talk
be
about
only $2
40% of $5 million, $3.5 million. And, there was a time where it's like $2.8 million. And, like, all they're doing is throwing around numbers that nobody, like 99% of the country, will never see. I mean,
can't even
it's
fathom of
no,
seeing.
no.
I mean,
And so I think she is going to try and pivot to this at one point and just sort of basically dangle it out there and see what Donald Trump, like, I wouldn't be surprised if she says something to the effect of, as Lester, as you know, I introduced an estate tax the other
now,
day.
there's a part B to this too, Sam, which I am personally loving. You may have seen this. She's given a front row seat to Mark Cuban
Yes.
at the debate to rent space inside of Donald Trump's head.
Yes.
Because Cuban is everything that Trump actually fakely claims that he is. Cuban made money, billions off of ideas he actually generated, and gives lots of money to charity and does all these kinds of things. Whatever you think of Mark Cuban, he does all these kinds of things that Trump claims that he does. So my guess is
To be
he'll come out
fair,
in
he
favor of
has
it.
3 co-hosts on his reality show, whereas Trump had none. I mean, Trump was
That's
just
a good
like
point.
the guy.
So he gets an easier ride. But the seriously, I mean, he'll be there, and my guess is he'll come out in favor of it ahead of time. I think he's estimated worth about $3 billion or something at this point. And so a guy that actually made all this money doing things and didn't have to, as he's ripped into Trump for the fact that Trump, that if you don't have to run these little scams if you're really that wealthy. You don't run Trump University. You don't do stuff like that. And just everything about Cuban gets under Trump's skin, and I'm sure Cuban will come out for this too.
It'll
which
be
makes it
interesting
worse
if,
as he
because
sits there and looks him in the front row.
this is an attack directly on his strength. At least what has been his strength, at least in the context of the Republican Party, is that he's a billionaire, and in the Republican Party, if you have the more money you have, the more morally righteous, the more powerful you are, and the corollary, which is, of course, if you're poor, then there's something morally wrong with you, and you have a cultural problem, and
Yep.
it is going to make him own what is big bragging rights, right? I've had a wonderful business. I made a ton of money. And I would not be surprised if she doesn't say, like, if she doesn't bring this up and really go directly at Donald with this, with Donald Trump with this and say, like, comment on it. Like, this is the thing that I think she needs to do throughout the entire debate is talk about policy. Make him respond to the idea of parental leave. Make him respond to the idea of expansion of Social Security. Make him so that either he takes a position that hurts him or the people in the Republican Party do. And he can't do it. There's no positions that he holds, to the extent that he holds any positions, that are going to resonate with the American public. To the extent that he is, still in this race, it is a function of the disposition that is attractive to Republican voters, and a function of
missteps by Hillary Clinton,
and perception of
shit.
her character. And I think she just should make it like, look, I think the subtext of this would be like, it doesn't matter who I am. This is what I'm going to do. And make him address those actions. Hey folks, Sam Seder here. I just got back from a company-wide meeting. Accounting is really coming down on me hard. We need to get to 100,000 subscribers as soon as possible. So please enjoy this channel. Subscribe right down there.